Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of What's Next with We. This podcast actually part of the podcast series we're doing with TiEBangalore. We have a really special guest today. We have Roopa Rajan, who is a food entrepreneur, a mindful eating coach, patent holder, and she runs a company called Nutrisupa, a plant-based vegan soup brand. Obviously, we'll get to know more about the brand and about her on this podcast. And we're obviously going to dwell about the innovations happening in the food tech space. I'm Vishal Ramaswamy, the V in What's Next with V, your host as always. Rupa, jumping right in. Firstly, welcome to my podcast.
Hey, thank you, Vishal, and thank you for this really sweet introduction.
Awesome.
Great. I'm ready to share my story here, and let's
Super,
jump
Rupa.
in it now.
Cool. Rupa, my first question, jumping right in. I believe you've done your psychology, you're a gold medalist there, then I think worked in the HR tech space, and then moved into food tech, and obviously a patent holder in what you're doing right now. So it would be great. I think the listeners would be really eager to know your unique story. I mean, from HR to food. So,
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the story even surprises me. I mean, can something really happen like this? But I think life is all about those wonderful changes that you go through,
true,
and how open are you to welcoming it, and how you adapt yourself to it.
true.
So, growing up in 90s, all of us had this dream of, that's when the IT had picked up, and Infosys was hiring. So you had this in the family, all your cousins writing the CET and getting the ranks. Okay, I am in, I got in Suratkal, I got in JC, I got in NI. So, typically even I went through that grind, but I think the first step that I took for myself was not sticking to the decision that I wouldn't be writing CET. There's the typical thing which happens like, oh, why are you not writing CET? Everybody.
True.
So it was like, okay, you get into this one, you hired into a company, you're getting into a job, and your life is settled and things like that. But that's when I decided I'm interested more in psychology. So it was just like a very strong thing that I had, that I wanted to do this. So until I think many years, it was like, okay, I want to do it and I will do it. But I think later years is when you connect the dot and see why you really wanted to do it, and what is the desire that led to that. And that makes me believe that, universe has its way of, bringing in into you the right thing that you want, what you always desired to do.
True.
So if I go back and think, growing up in a huge joint family, um, cooking up was like a very normal affair. 3 fresh meals were a very normal affair. And there was no talk about a hotel, or, going for food, ordering food. Forget order. We never went to a restaurant to have. Maximum was a masala dosa and a idli vada. Probably. That too were a very rare thing. So I think growing up, I saw a lot of happiness around food, whether it's children or elderly. I think we all used to sit and eat. I remember very strongly is like, though all my aunts and uncle were working at that time full time, all my aunts worked in bank. My mom was the only person who didn't work, taking care of the entire family, where she sacrificed her life. But the thing is, evening when everybody got back, everybody used to enjoy eating together. It was like everybody shared their day's happiness. Children used to be fed early. We all used to be given our plates, made to sit. They would tell stories around it. They used to be giggling. And then all the uncle and aunts would sit, parents would sit, grandfather used to sit. And there used to be so many good, bad, family, everything, functions, what's happening next festival, and what do we do for next. So, I mean, I saw a lot of conversation happening. And somewhere I think I enjoyed that as a growing child. And I'm basically a person who loves to be around people. And I think food is one space I think anybody would love to be. And I growing up in a family like that, it gave me an exposure to an array of um, uh, food, vegetables, spices, and it was not. It was a very ordinary thing. It was never a big or a very surprising things like today, where people introduce elaichi, cinnamon, pepper. Oh, this is pepper. No, it was all a very normal thing at home. So it was like, a part of me. And I think today, if I look, there's a lot of stress that what parenting talks about. They say you have to take your child to buy vegetables with you, keep them grounded. That's how you introduce them to knowing life. These are life skills that I think then it came very naturally. So I remember accompanying my dad to the Devraja market in Mysore, and the beautiful interaction that he used to have. And he would specifically go to, onion is this shop, vegetable, this particular vegetable is here, and the flowers have to be bought like this. So whenever I accompanied, I used to be very happy. It made me very joyful from within. So, and I think my father had a lot of patience to tell me about it. So he used to tell, this is how you should buy. And the simple conversation that they would strike, I felt there was so much of humanity in it. It was just not about, give me a kilo of onion or give me a kilo of beans. It was like, how are things at your place? How are things at my place? And, did it rain in your village? Then they would share, somebody has, my daughter delivered and this is what we give. And my dad would give some tip. I mean, why, by the way, he was a mechanical engineer. But he had a passion for cooking. The whole family, in fact, looked up to him to take a yes from him, whether it was pickling masala to the rasam powder to sambar powder. And I think I was very blessed that I was interacting with him at every stage in my life. And I think somewhere that inspired me a lot. And thanks to that, it was very informally done. So what we call today as bringing up and, life skill, those things were around everywhere. The happiness of things were, I mean, even if a lady came to sell a bit of greens in front of the house, asking, then it was not that. She would tell, if my grandmother, remember grandmother telling that, my daughter delivered, then she would specially tell, you give this green, make it like this and give it. So there was the knowledge transfer which was happening. Why some things were good as a postpartum cooking. The general, and even the neighbors would discuss, oh, you did your sambar like this, we cook it like this. So there was a knowledge transfer which happened without what we today put in as, points or steps or recipes and things. It's like prayers or the shlokas or the Vedas, which just passed on from, or the Janapada stories or folk songs, which just spread from one mouth to another. So there was no formal education which was needed. So today we have culinary institutes, chefs coming up, celebrity chefs, and it's a whole big thing. But then it was all very normal. Every family lived that way. So I think that somewhere was resonating with me. So once I finished my graduation, like every other girl, I got married, and okay, I was very happy in my space. And typically, mom would send because I started working, mom would send the rasam powder, sambar powder, and it went on for years. And there was a time like, we would make Mysore trips just to get these sambar powders, or your parents would come down to give you this, come to take it. Oh, this will suffice you for 1 month, 2 months, and things like that. But I think once I had my child, that's when I took a break. In a sense, when she was about 6-year-old. Till then, I thought, that career thing is high in your mind. You want to like earn, go up the corporate ladder, and money is there. You're partying and everything. So no, I thought I could never compromise on that kind of a career with good salary. And then also I owned, I used to run this HR firm. earning good, going, meeting people, partying around. That high was always there. But when I saw that, though you have a maid at home, they can take care and help you, but they cannot add value to your child's learning. That, as a mother or a father or as parents, are the only people who can add that value. So, that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to have her, but I'm going to take a break. So it was like we had a small discussion between me and my husband. I think by that time, India was revolutionizing in terms of women working up in corporate ladder, becoming financially independent. I think that's when, a lot of credit card used to be come to office and they used to sell that, and owning a credit card was such a big thing. And I think Citibank had opened their in way back in 2000, 99, 2000 is when they opened their thing, and they were opening up corporate's account, and flashing that card was this kind of happiness then, coming from small town, middle class family, girls working and things like that. So making a decision to stay back is something that, just I was just not ready to do that. But then, I think once you become a parent, your priorities change. Everything is around your child. So that's when, I believe when you make decisions, when you make compromises, you have to make it with a lot of happiness from within. Otherwise, you can never be happy in what you're doing, and nothing will flow into your life. So it was a very conscious decision to stay back. I think that was a turning point in my life. It was the other way around now. So I used to ask, oh my God, now I have time. Why should I ask my parents to send me everything every time? Now I'm going to do something. So that food started kicking in my mind. So you have time, okay, let's cook, let's make this. So you buy cookbooks. There were already, I think Sanjeev Kapoor had started making a huge, a name in the TV space with a lot of his shows. And that was a huge hit at that time, from 97 to 2001, 2002. But then a lot of changes. And I think it started influencing, and a lot of women started traveling out of India. So that brought in a lot of different cultural food into the home kitchen. So I started seeing that revolution there. I think it all began very silently. I would say it's as simple as, me eating a rajma chawal when I was in office with a colleague and sharing my sambar and rice, or, the puliogre and the upma and other stuff. So that's when you get introduced. Oh, there is something like rajma. Okay, there is something like chana. There is something like chole bhature and things like. So you get introduced to different foods, different culture. You start discussing. So I think that food that way has a lot of gives a lot of scope for people to interact. So that's what it made that difference in me. So trying to know things, started reading up. But then I thought, let me start making this for my parents now. So they have done all these things for me. So now it's time that I start doing it. And it was very challenging. So I started noting it. My father used to make trips to my home. He used to help me understand the proportions, why color is important, why you should fry something at this temperature, and why certain things are mixed in certain proportions only. And that nuance is what you have. I think that is the time when I started catching up with that. And so I started making this small batch of rasam powder, sambar powder, chutney pudis, and all the pudis that you could make on earth, and give it to all the friends. Any cousins would come, just pack it and send it. And somewhere it gave me a lot of happiness. And apart from that, my family started enjoying what I've never probably ordered food when I was in office also. I used to carry a big dabba. I would get up at 5, make my dabba, carry it to office. So I was always that foodie within me, whether it's health perspective or you enjoyed your own flavor. I didn't know what played on my mind, but I was very happy carrying my food. It gave me an opportunity to discuss with people, talk to people, open a conversation, and make a lot of friends. So it could be that I'm exchanging the dabba with someone, but I had to cook my food. So it gave me scope to think, what else can I make? Appa, what more can I make with this vegetable? How do I do this? Amma, what can I do? So a lot of information started flowing. So at the same time, I think my daughter had this allergic rhinosinusitis. So it's every with bronchial infection, with seasonal changes, and so she suffer because of that phlegm and not able to eat as like a 1 year baby, 2 year baby. So soup was one thing which she would happily eat, and which was very nutritious and very filling and things like that. But I used to make it patiently every day, some new soup. So I think for like 4 years, 5 years, in a week, at least 4 days, I would make fresh from the scratch, go through different YouTube recipes and make it and things like that. One thing I found was she enjoyed the rasam very much, and it gave her a lot of relief. So then I started thinking in my mind, oh yes, um, every vegetable, every spice has some effect on the health, and it can actually help you improve. And that's when I started researching, okay, as a tambram, this is what I cook, but what do a Telgite cook? How do they cook? How do they use the same vegetable or spices in something else? How Kerala, how do they use? Though you had a fair idea, but this was like getting deep dive into it, research, come back, cook. You may go wrong, go back again, look at it, read more about it, come back, cook again. And that's how I started trying to understand how India eats: north, south, east, west, Rajasthani khana, Gujarati, Jammu ka khana, MP, UP, and things like that. And if I have to say, um, I think when you have that fire within you to know, I think the learning becomes so much more.
True.
And it just opens up. It just opens up. So that's how it all started. Researching, understanding, and I think I used to attend every small functions or weddings, because I used to go and sit with all these old generation people to understand how they ate. What did they eat as a child? Because I don't think they use so much of antibiotics or nebulization and things like that when they were sick. I mean, I'm sure everybody would catch cold, come up with fever, but it's not like you ran to a doctor for every small thing. I don't remember my mother taking us to a doctor. It's like, okay, after 2 days, you would give maximum of crocin, home food. You're running after 5 days. So here we are in our generations where pumping our kids with medicines. I'm not saying it's wrong, but somewhere we have lost faith that food can be such a big diet can play such a big role in your health. So small little things started inspiring me, and so went back to knowing the kitchen ingredients, right from jeera to pepper, because I remember my grandmother doing this jirge dhania kashaya. That's what she used to have, and she used to have fever, nothing else. She used to just go langanam, that is fasting, and just 3-4 times of this, and put this concoction, put this, and then they would all be fine. So I've never seen her being diabetic. For as long as she lived, there should be something, right? They never ate outside. They ate all home cooked fresh meals. What we talk about today, they lived it. They lived by every word of it. So they grew their own vegetables. So we never remember going and buying so much of coconut like how we buy now, or packed coconut milk and things. It was all made fresh. And that definitely has its effect on your body. And more than anything, psychological well-being was at its peak. People never ate alone. They shared their food. Even if somebody as a maid or a help who came, they were given the first priority. They would keep something aside for them. So that sharing was there. So that caring was there. The honesty and that happiness of giving something on the festival was there. Today, what we talk about, bonus, giving them some perks. So all this, I think it's all a homegrown concept. So when I look back today, I think it's such a beautiful thing. So somewhere my inspiration was from there.
Great, Rupa. I think very relatable story. I think when you spoke about your childhood, I'm sure many folks who have been there in the 80s, 90s would have related to you, right? Going to the markets, talking to them, picking your own veggies. With today's age of your apps and everything coming home in 10 minutes, I think you lose that connect with
Yes.
the ground, right? The ground realities. Though actually my wife is kind of similar to what you're saying. So we guys go every week just to be in touch with nature, and to be more grounded. We go to the local market and buy veggies. So I exactly know what you're saying. I think, Rupa, very interesting story wherein you blend the family values, the societal norms into your startup, right? I
Yeah.
think, and plus you have organically through your experience figured out what should work, what could work. Like for example, I think your child fell ill, and then soup became a very interesting
Yes.
product that you thought would be interesting, and then your startup was born. So I think it's quite interesting and quite organic in the way you have built built your startup, and it's great to see your enthusiasm, passion for food. Like while you were mentioning rajma and chole bhature and puliodare, like my mouth was watering. On Rupa, on that note, would I'm sure the listeners would like to know a little bit more about your venture, Nutrisupa.
Yeah.
Uh, why soup? I think you just touched upon why soup, but
Yes.
what are you doing different? And you mentioned that
Yeah.
you're
That's
patent holder,
yes.
so would like to know more about the products that you have, the patent, which product you have the patent, how did you apply, how did you go about all of that?
Um,
Good to hear.
Absolutely. So, with this soup thing, I think most of the mothers would relate, or even the fathers, they're all hands on today with their children. Uh, Believe me, soup is such a nice thing to eat, but the process of making it sometimes can just bog you down with, making the broth and things like that. So I thought there should be some way that we can um come up with something nice, something better. Like, I went around in the market looking for some like ready to make vegetarian soup, which didn't have, which was preservative free. I'm talking like about like 9 years back also. I don't think we had anything in the market. So we had the typical Nor soup, I think. I remember that's the only brand that I remember then.
Yeah,
Of course,
true.
now we have your Chings and lot of the brands that are there. And one more thing I noticed, I paid attention to, was that we lost a lot of ingredients in our race to life, making it, we lost the importance of some of the ingredients in the kitchen, which had
True.
huge health benefits.
Yep.
Say, even for like a pepper or a jeera, we would never look at it as something like a concoction that you could make and have it for small little, even a digestive issue. You would immediately go for a Digene or something like that. So, I thought, if these things can have so much of benefit on our health, maybe I should go to nutrition and study how does it work. So I went on to do a certificate program in modern nutrition. It gave me a lot of knowledge, but it didn't answer a lot of questions that was on my mind. Say, I mean, they even typically speak about, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. These are your macronutrients. Then you have micronutrients, vitamins, minerals. Okay. But if you go back to how India cooks and how India eats, the way combination works is very different. And that's when I said, where can I get, because when I started reading, these are all Ayurvedic ingredients, and Indian kitchen is a pharmacy in itself. So I would call it an Ayurvedic pharmacy. So, I'm sure you would also resonate with the fact that we have haldi doodh as soon as we have, a cold or a cough. But we understand why we mix turmeric with milk and we add a little bit of pepper powder to it, or crush one pepper and put it, and then we add a little bit of ghee. So how does this work? There was no logical explanation. It was called Dadi Ma Ka Nuska. or your mom's solution to it. But if you go back and understand, when I started doing Ayurveda, I started doing the introductory course, further went into advanced course. That's when it started giving me a lot of logical, scientific explanation to each and every ingredient, how it's combined. It could be your rasam powder to sambar powder, or just the kosamri that you make at home. I mean, I was amazed with the fact that the carrot kosamri that we eat, if you take it modern nutrition, it says that, carrot is very rich in vitamin A, and, you need a fat, A is a fat soluble molecule. So you need a fat to dissolve it and things like that. Ayurveda has a very simple explanation. Carrot is, we call something as potency, that is hot or cold. Carrot is of hot potency. And it has vitamin A. You need a fat to dissolve, so you add coconut to it. So then, because that is there, you need some coolant, because that is hot. So you add hesru bele, that is your moong dal, soaked moong dal to it. Then you add the coriander leaves, fresh coriander leaves, because it has the ability to digest. And then there's a tadka given to it. Not only it gives the crunch, and it not only decorates, but it has small little vitamins and minerals, which is very essential in your body, which you need it in a very little. So when you have combined these ingredients, there's a very scientific approach to it. Today, we are able to explain it in a scientific way, but then it was thought about to be like. So this is a kind of understanding and knowledge you need to have when you're especially developing a product. So this is the kind of research and understanding and study that I went in, and talking to many generation people. Some of them are not there, but they added a lot of value into my learning. They were all in their 90s, and some are even like late 90s, and 101, 102 in my family, who told me why they cooked certain things the certain way. And what was this? So with all this knowledge, I started developing products. I said, why do we need a preservative? How did we store pickle for 1 year? How did we store pickle for 1.5 years and still relish it? So then how did we preserve our rasam powder? There's no preservative in it. There is a chutney powder which stays for 3 months. Then there is garam masala which stays for 6 months. I think that understanding has to come. And that's when I said, I'm going to develop products, especially soup products, which will not have any preservative in it. And we will see how the shelf life comes out. So that's when, I started researching on each lentil, how each community cooks, and if it's a non-veg, with which lentil they cook, because it needs to be high protein, because I wanted to develop a high protein soup. So, that's how, I started understanding proteins, talking about lentils. So then I said, moringa is making such a big rage in the market, but didn't we have this earlier? We had it. It's more than 7,000-8,000 year old thing. We've been using it in our as a civilization. We have used it, so we have understood it. See, moringa is a very high heat. It's very much hot in potency. So it needs to be combined with something. They used to cook it with onions. Onions, when it is cooked, it's though astringent. When it cooks, it becomes sweet. So when it becomes sweet, it has a different property. The property changes. In Ayurveda, that's the understanding you get. So the way raw food is, when you cook it, it changes. So, how does the fire bring that changes? How does water makes the food different, taste different? So that's how you learn the nuances of the ingredient, especially if you want to develop something with an Indian context. And Ayurveda is definitely just not for India. It's it can be applied anywhere in the world. So it comes with a very holistic perspective. So that's how I went into understanding of things, and slowly started developing products. So Nutrisupa, before Nutrisupa, for a couple of years, I think I used to make this soup product and send it to all my cousins. Friends used to come. I used to serve them at home just to test the product. How do they like the taste? And, that's how you have a way of testing it, not telling them. They knew I was very passionate about food, but still, this is a soup. How do you like it? Let's start with a soup. I used to wait for everybody to give their feedback. So silently understand it, make a note of it, go back, tweak the recipes, serve it to the family, call another set of friends, give them, and things like that. That's how I started working with lost ingredients. So if you look at it, moringa, you ideally it's not very good to consume it in the raw powder form, because it's very heat, and it might not be very good for your gut lining. So you combine it with fat, and cook it well and then have it. So that's how then there is this something called as long pepper. We call it hipli in Kannada. It's called tipli in Tamil. So pipli in Hindi. So this is one of the pepper which India used in cooking, even before much of black pepper what we have. Because tipli is used because though it's hot in potency, once it digests, it's cooling on your body. So I thought when it has so much of properties, this should be brought back. And we lost agse sopu, we call it in Kannada. This is called as agati kire. It's called Sesbania grandiflora. That's the botanical name for it. So this product is especially an inspiration from Ayurveda, from Ekadashi fast that we used to use. As a Tambram, growing in a Tambram, Ekadashi fasting was very common for us. So started fasting from the Dashmi in the afternoon. You'd break your fast on the 12th day. After Ekadashi, Dwadashi is when you used to break the fast, first thing in the morning. So there is a certain way of cooking things and the ingredients that you use. Like you use a moong dal, you use amla, then you use this agati kire, and then you have hesrabele paisa, tove. And so every product what Nutrisupa has got an inspiration and a cultural connotation to it, how we ate. So these are all something that has been part of us, but I wanted to get it in a way that you could make it easily. So if you look at Nutrisupa products, we have 5 products in it. One is called the moringa lentil soup. We have a patent for it. And then we have spice lentil soup. This is what I'm talking about, including long pepper in for its amazing health benefits with other Indian spices. Then we have agati lentil soup, inspired from Ekadashi. And then we have almond fennel, which is a very, very interesting product because it's got barley as base. And barley is mentioned, you can find it even in Rig Veda. People have asked me why barley, why fennel, almond. It gives you a very continental taste and excellent if people are looking at, something like a weight loss, who are diabetic. This helps them manage these things. Then very interesting flavor is almond rose that we have. This is again inspired from our gulkan with barley. And rose has amazing, this is called a shatapatri, and it has got the cooling property in your body. Along with fennel, it does an amazing job for your skin, your digestive, gut health, and anybody suffering from constipation and things like that. So the idea was to bring in product which is very easy to make. So all Nutrisupa products, if you want to make a cup of soup, all you need to do is just add 2 cups of the powder into about 200 ml water, mix it well, bring it to boil, and a cup of soup is ready. So this is absolutely preservative free. These are all tested on micro and macro nutrition. They have been tested in lab for shelf life. So they have been tested and given a report for 12 months. And, we have served more than about 5,000-6,000 customers, attending various exhibitions, sampling out, and things like that. So it's vegan, it's plant-based. It was not that I wanted to consciously develop a plant-based product, but the ingredients were such that you need not have dairy in it. Because, dairy, some people are very allergic to dairy. Some people are allergic to soy. So I wanted to develop a product which is not brings that allergy in any people. Say they should not refuse a product just because they're allergic to something. And main thing, from the psychological perspective, I think it's important for us to connect with the ingredient. You should be able to read it. You should be able to, the moment I say black pepper, immediately that picture should come to your mind. And if you tasted the soup, or while you're making it, the aroma of it should remind you of your mother's kitchen or your grandmother's kitchen. And scientifically, if I have to speak, that brings in a lot of different chemicals in your body, which prepares you for digestion. So food is just not about taste, it's also about aroma, smell, taste, touch. It should be satisfying to all your organs first.
Totally.
And yeah, so that's how Nutrisupa was born. And we are very happy. We have a small set of customer base, yes, but these are the people who make very conscious choice, who place an order with us. And we have customized some for patients. So we've had a few cancer patients who have taken from us because they cannot eat anything, or people who are generally recovering from surgeries and acute illness and things like that. But apart from people who look for something which is healthy, not very high in calorie, yet filling, protein rich, I think Nutrisupa is there to serve them.
Awesome.
And that's how it is.
Awesome, Rupa. I think great message to the listeners. I think guys who want to really taste authentic, plant-based, vegan, I think should definitely try Nutrisupa. Rupa, one thing I really liked is how you have really gone into depths of understanding each ingredient, the food, the science behind it, the Ayurvedic qualities behind each one of them. And at the same time, you have done enough research by calling people, doing those sampling, going at exhibitions. So all of this, Rupa, I feel that I think you learned along the way, right? I don't think you were an entrepreneur at the beginning. You learned it all on the way. So my next question to you is, Rupa, you've done everything that an entrepreneur typically does, right? First,
Yeah.
initially understand the product, understand the market, create those products, do some sampling, test the market, get feedback, and then do it all over again. So would be great to give, I mean, since you've been in the market for past 5 to 8 years, would be good to hear your thoughts, any message for to be women entrepreneurs. Obviously, women entrepreneurship is now gaining enough steam. There's a lot of support. There's the ecosystem is matured. Would be good to hear your 2 or 3 tips to future women entrepreneurs.
I think women by nature are risk takers. There's nothing called as the calculated risk. You just jump into it, knowing that you can do it. There is a sense of calling within you. The first important message that I would give is, if something, an idea resonates with your being, just go for it. It need not be successful. You can always do these micro experiments, right?
True.
So you may fail, but there's nothing like failure, because it's only learning. The thing is, the moment we think success, your learning stops. You are an eternal learner. Every day you have to unlearn to learn new things.
True.
So I think once you're on an entrepreneurial journey, you become more humble, you become more inquisitive.
True.
You don't become critical, right? You become more inquisitive. You get into the place of understanding than being judgmental. And by this, I mean to say that it helps you grow as a person. So the more you're giving into your product, you also know that you are evolving as a being. So the ultimate purpose of any person is to be happy. So if you can't find happiness in what you do, then there's no point regretting at the end of the life, thinking I could have done that.
True.
I can say that I have done this. I might have gone wrong somewhere, but I can come back. So that is the confidence that it gives. And believe me, I never thought in my life that I will become an entrepreneur. I'll be attending exhibitions, and someday, I'll write my patent and I'll be awarded a patent for it. So if you dream and that resonates with your being, things will fall into place. Because today success is defined by very differently. But what success personally means to you could be very different.
True, very true.
You have to be very happy in this present space where you are and make space for more happiness. And you have to give. If you don't give, if you're not in the space of giving, you're not in the mindset of giving, nothing is going to come to you. So I believe every person is filled with something to give. And very importantly, never underestimate the intelligence that you're born with, the wisdom that you have experienced. So every failure, I wouldn't say failure, every learning brings a lot of knowledge. With knowledge comes wisdom. What you do with that wisdom, that knowledge can stay with me and say, I can cook for these 10 people. But if my happiness is to serve the whole world with what I cook, if somebody I want to serve the whole world and I want everybody to taste what Roopa does, I can't keep going and doing the whole world. I need to get a product on table. I can't keep giving gyan on Instagram and say, this is good for you. You do this, you do this, you do this. If I'm going to tell you, Vishal, this is what you need to do. From tomorrow, you do this for 10 days and you're just going to be fine. But are you going to go back and do it? Do you have time? If I say, Vishal, this is good for you, at the same time, I have a product for you, okay, which exactly speaks what I'm telling you. All it takes is 5 to 7 minutes. You can just make it in your workplace or at home. Just replace 1 cup of coffee with a soup and just feel the difference. So while we are talking about solutions, ensure you have a product with you. A product which you feel you are 100% sure. And do not develop a product just for the heck of it. Go back, do your learning. You won't be perfect. We are not here to be perfect. Nobody is perfect. We are all in the making. So it's just fine. Okay, there are mentors. Have a mentor in life. I think that's very important. Not to just in the mentor in terms of business, but somebody who can mentor you in your thought process, approach towards life. That changes the whole equation. So especially women entrepreneurs, go and network. Don't be shy for anything. Ask. If you don't ask, you're not going to get anything. Don't leave an opportunity. But it's not that you have to be in every networking event. That look at if it makes sense for you. Go, present your product, talk about it. You're just not talking about the product. Ultimately, you're talking about your own self because you relate to it so much. So sample out. It's okay. I have gone and just called people on the road and said, I'm doing this, why don't you taste it? And believe me, it's we who build the limitations in our mind. But there are people who wholeheartedly come when you go and ask to come and help you out. They may come and tell you like, this is nice, why don't you do this? I have experienced, elderly people, right from teenage to elderly, who have come and given so much of learning to me. Roopa, this is the how we used to cook this ingredient. Do you think you can develop something with this for me? So they'll start giving you the ideas, which you think you cannot do, which you might have not even thought about. So there is scope for innovation. Innovation begins the moment you decide, the moment you pay attention to what you're doing. Every day morning, I get up and cook. But I cook with so much of happiness, as though life has given another opportunity for me to give and serve some good food for my family, good food to another person. While I take it to my workplace, I'm serving somebody else. So when you pay attention, when you want to give, there's so much coming back to you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Roopa, I think some very interesting learnings. I think purpose of life in a way, right? You kind of figure out your purpose in life and give it your full in a way, right? That's what you kind of...
Purpose is very important. I mean, it's just not to build business. Purpose is something which will make you positively move towards your life. Exactly. Even in the gravest situation that you could be, you might lose money, you might lose fame, you might lose everything. But if you have a sense of purpose, you will derive your goal, you will derive your objective.
I think
And it
once that base is set of purpose in life, then everything kind of
for
falls in
me,
place,
for
right?
me, my purpose is to serve the world happiness through food. That is my purpose statement. My vision
Awesome.
could be something else. My vision could be goal. But whenever I'm doing something new, I always say, does this resonate with my purpose? So I write on my Facebook, Roopa Rajan, you can just go and see, I write stories about food, everyday cooking. So I think about food. I read about food. I upskill. Another thing which I want to really tell women entrepreneurs is upskill. Go for new certifications in the way you want to go. Upskill yourself. That's very, very important. Sometimes I don't understand tech. It's okay. It's okay. I go and tell it among 80, 100 people. I said, I'm so sorry, guys. I feel so left out in this space. I'm not from tech background. I just feel I'm so out of place, but you need to educate me. But I'm going to give you so much of knowledge when it comes to food. Believe me, I get 100 times more. It's the reservations and limitations we place in our mind, but the world is something else. It's just that you have to reach out.
True. Absolutely. Rupa, I think mention other things, right? Like have a mentor in life, always have a positive mindset, always give first rather than expecting to take. So all
Yes,
of these things are critical as you build your business, right? Because in the
exactly.
end, you're all in it together. You can't do it alone. So some very interesting points out there, Rupa. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and one more thing. See, this is all like from the life perspective that you have got, but from business perspective, however small, whether you're growing or you have grown, I think the fundamental remains the same. You need to know your product well. You need to know your customers well. You need to know your
Absolutely.
demography. You need to know your unit economics. You need to know whether you need to raise an investment or not. Not all businesses need investment. So I feel
Correct.
if you're going behind it, just don't go behind it because you'll get lost from where you started. You can never come back. So you have to know whether you really need it, and you need to know how big you want to grow. There's no
Very
limitation. Sky
important.
is the limit.
True.
So you have to know the customers that you're serving. See, my customer is very niche. I know my customers are basically vegan and plant-based, but I have a lot of customers who generally are very fitness conscious, who believe in eating mindfully, you know, enjoying the taste, flavor, and things like that. Because I have customers who've called me and said, your soup just reminded me of my grandma.
Nice. And
So
that's the
there is,
ultimate
yeah,
compliment.
that's like, yeah, I have like, I think a 82-year-old lady who called me up and said, I ordered your soup through Amazon, Roopa. This is because I couldn't go for the post delivery of my granddaughter, but this helped her. She said, Party, this was as good as you being with me. And I think that's a greatest
That's
compliment. And it's like, you have this trust factor in your product.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
It can't get bigger than I think that compliment
yeah,
can't get bigger than
yeah.
that.
And one more thing is, you will hear when I started as soups, people just laughed at me. People made a big joke out of me. It's like, Rupa, you want to do soups? Are you crazy? I mean, there's so much of Chinese soup in them. I said, everybody has a place. God
Correct.
didn't decide that somebody, okay, I don't have place, so this person is not going to be born, right? Everybody has place in this universe. So you are here to make a difference. So you need to believe in that. So I said, okay, everybody is there. So I am also there. It's okay. People who can resonate with what I say and resonate with my product will come back to me.
True.
They will come back to
Yep.
Nutrisupa.
Absolutely. The
So
product is good. Customers will come and they'll come knocking at your door. So
yeah, I mean, there are businesses which have grown after 25 years. It's okay. Have patience.
exactly.
Have perseverance. Just
That's
be disciplined. More than I think self-help books. That's important, but I feel discipline is very important.
true. Rupa,
Yeah.
some very interesting points. I think the listeners out there, especially I think women entrepreneurs who are building niche businesses, right? I think
Yeah.
a lot of interesting points that you have mentioned. Rupa, in the interest of time, I think I'll just go into my last
Please.
question. Basically, the theme of this podcast, which is what's next, right? I think you've already done amazing work on your products, right, in the soup space. Just wanted to get your thoughts on what's next. What's the next 3, 5, 10 years looking like in the food space specifically, and how can technology kind of augment or make these innovations at much faster space? Would be good to hear your thoughts on that.
Absolutely. I think, see, one of the very important things that we need to understand as entrepreneurs is technology is here to stay. You have to keep up with that. So whether you are supplying food from your central kitchen, or whether it's you're having your own e-commerce site, or whether you're putting up in some e-commerce marketplace, there's tech everywhere. So ensure that you're very abreast with what's happening with that. And I think if you ask me, there's a lot of innovation which is going on in especially the vegan and plant-based food space, because people are understanding the health benefits of being there. And today, AI is replacing a lot of places, especially I think it's going sooner or later in the next 3 to 5 years. There are going to be robots who are going to prepare your food. All you need is it's like your coffee vending machine. I don't know how to say it, but there's going to be something which is going to make it very special and very interesting for all of us. All you need to do is probably just put your product and everything. Whether tomorrow you'll go and say, I just want some vegetables in it. I need some cheese in this. So you're just going to give the base product. So that's why I say the learning and openness and to know what's happening in food tech space is very important. Today, machines are replacing your roti makers, and at home we can see now women are contributing so much in the entrepreneur or generally the workspace. I think there's so much of innovation coming in it, because recently I had a chat with somebody who's making this robotic machine where you just feed the ingredients, it just cooks everything and just going to serve you. And I'm not surprised the day you have everything filled in that machine and you're going to just sit and operate and say, okay, today I need to have some rasam or a sambar. And by the time you come home, it's ready.
Roopa, just a question there, because typically food is made with a lot of love, right?
Yeah.
And that shows whenever somebody makes it with love and passion, like a human making it, there's always a difference in taste. There's something about it, right?
Yes.
So do you think we might lose that part of it when we use robots?
Of course, you're going to lose so much. So just think, you and me having conversation over a bowl of soup, I make it and give it to you, and we are talking a lot of things, but in between, you're enjoying the taste, and you said, how do you make it? And I say, oh, this is how I make it. And the way I serve it to you, the expression that you give it to me, saying, oh, this is really nice. The human connection is very important when it comes to food. And definitely you're going to compromise very, very big time in that. But factory made is not something you will emotionally resonate with.
True.
Yeah, it's still a factory made.
True.
So, you have to compromise on something somewhere. You cannot have it all. But if you're, but at least you should be happy. We should be happy that, there's a lot of work that is happening in especially the food space, innovative foods which are coming, say, there's mock meats which are coming up, and things like that. So yes, you can expect a lot of revolution that is going to happen in food. It's just that you have to be prepared, but at the same time, it's very important we maintain our sanity. I would really, my message, very important message, anywhere that I go, I give this: come back and cook at least one meal. Even it could be just as simple as dal chawal or anna saru or just the dosa that you make. You might have bought the batter, but at least spend that 5 minutes to make your dosa. We have the soup powder ready. all that we ask is get your creativity a little bit with addition of some vegetables to it, and enjoy that little moment of cooking and feel good that you have made something for yourself. Tech need not replace emotions. Tech cannot replace your experience,
Exactly.
human
So,
connections. So please.
Roopa, I think to your point, I think if we can blend in technology with the human touch and have a balance, right? End of the day, we all like balance. Otherwise,
Yes.
you lose something. So Roopa, I think on that note, thank you for being part of my podcast. I think some very interesting point. Maybe the last thing I think you've already mentioned that across the podcast, that I think the final message that I could maybe take away is a family that eats together kind of stays together. I think
Yes.
that's a key message that you've been across all my questions that I asked. I think that's an important bit. Be it technology, be it innovation, whatever that's happening, I think end of the day, the simple things will always have the maximum impact, is what I believe in as well.
Yeah, sharing a cup of coffee with your friend is going to make a huge difference
True.
in whether you want to share joy, happiness, sad, the
Absolutely.
bad news, but that in-person touch, that
Absolutely.
smile, that understanding is what it requires. Of course, technology is welcoming. It should, because it makes our life easy. It's going to
True.
help us grow as a furthermore, and
Exactly.
give us more time to do much better. It's
True.
enabling us, but
Correct.
at the same time, as a human being, we should know where we can draw a line personally.
Awesome.
Personally.
Awesome.
Personally.
Very true. And I'm definitely I second you on that. I think, Suba, the way you've kind of mixed psychology with food, I think it's a great way of actually ensuring that humans kind of don't miss these important aspects in life, these smaller, finer nuances in life, right? So, Rupa, on that note, once again, thanks a lot for being part of What's Next with We in this the TiEBangalore podcast series. It was absolute pleasure having you here, and it kind of reminds me of my childhood on having food, fresh food, homemade cooked food. So I think listeners out there, I'm sure would resonate to the same what you have mentioned. Rupa, once again, thanks for being part of this podcast.
Thank you so much, Vishal. I want to leave the audience with one thought. Yadbhavam tadbhavati means what you think is what you are. And the second very important thing is jaisa ann vaisa man. So, you are what you eat also.
Awesome.
So you are what your emotions and you are what you eat. So
Awesome.
resonate and with your being and just find your purpose and move on. The life
Perfect.
will lead you. The life will take you on a right path.
Great.
Thank you so much, Vishal,
Thanks,
for this
Rupa.
opportunity. Thank you to TiEBangalore also.